Hi, everyone. I'm so excited you guys are here. This is going to be an absolute amazing workshop today. It's one of my favorites. It's going to be a little tropical, but overall completely bright and ready to go. And it has some cool flowers in here that we haven't used before, including the Mocara orchids. So, hey, Karen, do you mind bringing me the block of Oasis, please? Let's go through everything that you should have. In your kit, you've got your beautiful white ceramic vase. This is one of our signatures that we do a lot of when you order flowers from us, and you have the option for a ceramic vase. This is often what you'll have. And then you should have a knife to cut your oasis. Thank you very much, Karen. Cutting shears. Use beautiful ones from Japan. And if you like using the tools we do, you can purchase this on our website from our favorite things tab. It takes you to the Amazon link, so you can buy them on Amazon and have them the next day. They come in all sorts of bright, beautiful colors, and they seriously cut through stems like butter. This is pretty much exclusively what we use here. Or you can use any good pair of scissors. We always have a towel, clean up our messes as we go. And then you should have one already soaked block of Oasis, right, like this. And so it should be nice dark green. And this is a little different than what you would buy at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. It won't soak up water. That is for silk flowers. You can get this at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but you have to be very specific in your purchase to make sure that you're buying wet foam. I think it's okay. You don't have to play anything, Karen. We actually got flagged a couple of weeks ago on one of our videos because we had music in the background and it was copyrighted. So they took down the video. Fortunately, it was a private workshop, so they didn't need to see it again. But we learned our lesson on that. So we're going to put these to the side for the moment. And then let's go through our bundle. So just a little side note, I actually got to go get my hair done the other day. So no more brassiness. And I got it really short, a little shorter than I had expected, but it's okay. So let's go through what we have in our flower bundle. We have the Mocara orchids. Whoop, whoop. If you have any down here at the bottom that are not super fantastic, you can go ahead and just peel those off because we're really going to use more of the top sections anyway. So don't fret if some of them down here don't look so bad or look so hot. Other than that, there's really no cleaning up that you have to do with these suckers. They're super lush and hardy, and no stem or no leaves and no thorns. Most of our orchids come from Thailand, actually. Then we have these beautiful, beautiful purple spray roses. They're almost a fuchsia color, but not quite. They're just a beautiful, beautiful purple. Then we have our yellow spray roses. This is called a golden color.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you? Good, good. Our popcorn just arrived. We brought in popcorn. It's called Poppy Popcorn, and it just arrived. We'll share pictures with you guys later. Next, we have our blueberry roses. This is not a fantastic lighting for this color. Sorry, it's a little loud in here, but it's Friday. It's busy. We love it. But these are my absolute favorite color of rose. They go with so many different color palettes. They can go with like neutrals and be like your little pop of purple because they can be more of a mauve-y color. You can put it with yellows or even oranges and it would look good that way. Or you can put it with other purples and reds and be really dark and moody. It's just so versatile. Then you've got some pink carnations, You've got this beautiful bright stalk. And yes, that is the name of it, stalk. And usually these have a really good, intense, sweet smell. I love them. Then we have some yellow Alstroemeria. You have one stem of Israeli ruscus. There are several different types of ruscus, so it's important to know that this is Israeli. There's also Italian and I'm drawing a blank on the third one. And then you've got the fan palm. This guy actually looks like this when he came into the shop. Obviously that couldn't ship, and it's also way too big for our little vase. So we went ahead and trimmed him for you. And the way we did that is we literally just went around the edges and cut them to kind of make that little more compact look. And it kind of looks like he just grew that way. That little guy's hanging on. There you go. Oops. Now, these bottom ones are not super attractive and will probably be in the way. So we cut those off too. So that's how we ended up making your fan palm for you. Just so you can kind of see the process that went through. Since we're trying to give you as much of a real florist experience. So that's how we created yours. All right, so now that we've gone through everything that we should have in our recipe, let's go ahead and start cleaning them all up. Get my little trash bucket over there. Wow, that made a mess. All right, so fan palm does not need any cleaning up, so I'm going to place it over there with my orchids. We're going to clean up our yellow spray roses first. So what you'll do is we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. We're going to take off the leaves right at the base where it connects to our major stem. And you can just lightly push down and pull it down. You don't want to pull it from like here, because as you get towards the top, they're kind of connected to the other little branches of blooms, and you could pull that whole bloom off with it. So it's really important that you're doing this intentionally versus just pluck, 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 pluck. So go ahead and get off all of the large leaves from up here. These tiny little ones up here, that's up to you. I like a really clean look, so I'm going to take them off too. Then going up towards the top, you've got the green parts that are around your bloom. That's called the calyx. That's where the bud formed. If they're pointing up or down, it doesn't matter. But if any of them are broken, creased, or have any kind of decay on them, you'll want to go ahead and peel it off right at the base, nice and clean, and that will help your arrangement stay better longer. Next, we're going to move to these outer petals around here. They're called guard petals because they guard the rest of the flower from getting damaged. And honestly, these yellow ones are extremely hardy, and you shouldn't have a whole lot of guard petals. If they have a little discoloration, like they have got a little red tip to them or an orange side on the guard petal, honestly, that's perfectly fine. That's just a little variegation in the bloom, and that's perfectly fine. I don't know about yours, but mine are a little tight. So I'm going to just blow inside them a little bit. You kind of blow in a circular pattern and to open it up just a little bit more. If that doesn't work, because these guys are super hardy, the turgor pressure, which is how it draws up water and it pushes on the water in the cell, pushes against the cell wall, and that creates the rigidness that you feel on flowers or plants. It's called turgor pressure. And when it doesn't have enough water, it doesn't have enough volume in the cell to push against it, then it gets limp and weak and it doesn't have any turgor pressure. So these have a lot of turgor pressure, so they're very rigid. So if blowing in there doesn't help, you can also just use your fingers and fan them out just a little bit. Don't break your petals. It's just a nice little fan out. And this just allows us to explore, like, look at that guy. He's really opening up for us. And to enjoy his beautiful face for longer. So go ahead and do that with all 3 of your stems. Give you all a moment to do that. All right. Now that your roses are all cleaned up, let's go over to the stalk. So on these leaves, there are no thorns on stalk, by the way. So for these, you can literally start at the top and just work your way down like that. If you're not comfortable with that, you can pull them off individually as well. Now, this is a lot of stem for our arrangement again, and I don't like these kind of green tips. It's a personal preference, but I think they're a little distracting. And instead of pulling off petals from the bottom, which if any of them look like they're going bad, that's okay. You can go ahead and peel those off and still have the majority of your flower still good. Because the bottoms go bad faster because they've been blooming longer than the rest of it. So see, couldn't even tell that it was supposed to have another row down here. But this little green top, I'm going to go ahead and snip off as well. So what you'll do is you'll find out where he connects down here on the main stem and where the next blooms, the actual blooms start. And so you're gonna snip right before the next set of blooms, okay? So right there in that stem is where those next blooms started. And so I cut nice and deep in there. And now you can't even tell that he was supposed to have this little top on it. So go ahead and do that with all 3 of your stock. Don't take off too many of the blooms from the bottom because you still want nice and fluffiness from it. And a lot of the workshops that we've done have been directional, meaning or a 360 view where you view it the same thing on all 3 sides. I'm sorry, on both sides, front and back. But this one is definitely going to be a front-facing arrangement. So a little different than we've done before. That little guy is sticking up a little bit too much. I'm going to snip him off too. I just don't need or want him to be distracting. There we go. Perfect. We're going to leave this as the last piece. This is our Israeli ruscus. So we're going to put him over here with our fan palm because they're going to go last. Next, we're going to do the Alstroemeria. Now this one is super important that you pull off these leaves the right way, right here at the base, because these little branches really like to come off with their leaves. So this bottom row right here where they all kind of start branching off is where you're going to pull off those leaves. And of course, anything down below here. Now, the leaves that are up here, it's up to you if you want to remove or not, because they're going to be nice and tight in our arrangement. It could offer a nice little texture in there, but if you have too many of them, or if they are creased and broken like that guy, then you'll want to go ahead and remove them. So to do that, you go up right where he connects and just kind of pinch him with your fingernail, or you can use your shears and snip them off that way too. Really only the broken ones are necessary, or if you have too many, just kind of thin it out. If you have any blooms that are broken, go ahead and snip those out as well. You have plenty of them, so taking out one or two will be fine. So go ahead and do that with all 3 of your stems, or 2, I'm sorry, you should only have 2. I am so in love with yellow right now. Maybe it's because it's so nice and bright and sunny out. So taking a look, this guy is kind of erroneously sticking up, so I'm gonna take him out. Perfect. Now you've got 2 beautiful cleaned up Alstroemeria. And if yours are still tight, don't worry, they'll open up nice and beautiful. And these will be the longest lasting, these and your carnations will be the longest lasting part of your arrangement. So as things start to die and go away, you can pull those out and put them in a bud vase with just themselves. Next, we're gonna go to our roses. And again, we're gonna clean up the leaves, same way as we were doing everything else. If you happen to have any thorns, like, oh boy, like that guy. Look at those thorns on them. The way you're gonna take them is you're gonna just push sideways on them. And that way it's gonna limit I had to steal your computer. Mine had a 30-minute update with only 15 minutes to go for the workshop. So I had to steal Holly's computer for this. And of course I didn't have my laptop charger, and that was only at 18%. So shame on me for not being better prepared. Now, if you don't feel comfortable snapping off your thorns, you can also cut them with your shears. Go ahead and pull up all the leaves and thorns. Again, as you get up here to these calyxes, mine are really, really wonky. And that's the only reason I'm going to take them off. Otherwise, again, if they're not decayed or broken, they're fine. But I don't like the wonkiness either. Pointing straight down is fine. Then you'll remove any guard petals. Now, if they're just dark, that's okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's dead or old. It's just a variegation of it. Variegation means like a two-toned of it. But if you don't like it, you can always remove it. And it kind of helps the flower open too. So now that we have our guard petals removed, we're going to turn him over and we're going to help him open up. So we're going to twirl him in between our fingers, right like that. Now, again, these are super healthy and rigid, so that didn't help open him up like they normally do. So we're going to blow in him. That helped a little bit, but I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to help and peel back some of the petals with my fingers, just tucking them in like that. This is really going to help him open up a little bit more. Don't do it too hard and crack the petals off, but you can feel the give that you're giving to your flowers that he's given you. There we go. Nice and beautiful and open. Go ahead and do that with all 3 of your roses. Again, these are the blueberry variety. They're a little bit more red than blue, but that's okay. Again, opening up these roses does not damage them or shorten their life at all. It just helps us enjoy their beautiful faces longer. So that's how much bigger we're getting them. I already blew in the sky a little bit, but we're getting them nice and big and open. Yay! So you should have 3 beautiful, opened, cleaned up roses. All right. Next, we've got our carnation. And honestly, you don't have to worry about cleaning up these leaves because we're going to cut them shorter. So this first knuckle is all we're going to clean up. Be careful because carnations like to break at their knuckle points. So just be careful when you're doing that and just peeling them down. Now your carnations are really tight and closed. So we're going to open them up longer or bigger. And literally you can just take your thumbs and just fan him out. You can be quite rough with these guys. They're not going to bruise like roses would if you're rough with the petals. So just nice and fanned out. So see, it's so much prettier. I'm cutting my stems a little shorter so I can show them without being out of the camera. Just nice and open. And we probably won't use all of our carnations today, so you might have some leftovers, but that's okay. There you go. Perfect. So, oh, didn't take my leaves off the first knuckle. Perfect. Nice and fluffy carnations. Carnations have such a bad rap, but they offer the most amazing texture and arrangement. And honestly, they're actually the Queen's favorite flower, the Queen of England's. So if they're good enough for her, then I think they're good enough for all of us. I mean, look at that. Look at how beautiful that looks with the roses. So set those to the side. Next, we're going to go on to our purple spray roses. And we'll clean them up exactly like we did our yellow ones. If you have any broken stems, like I got that broken one right there, you'll just snip them off. If he's got a long enough stem, you can just cut the broken piece off and you could probably still use him in a shorter place, but mine is super broken, so I'm gonna have to trash him. If you have any stems that don't have a bloom on it and it's just erroneously there, you can go ahead and snip him off too because he's gonna be distracting and in the way. And these don't have a whole lot of guard petals either. Now this variety is a little bit more frilly than we've had in the past. So even though they might look wrinkled, that's okay. That is how they are supposed to be. It's definitely different than your regular spray rose variety. I mean, it is a regular, but it's a different variety. So it's got a little bit more of a frilly texture to the ends of those petals. And that is normal. Perfect. Now we've got 3 beautiful cleaned up spray hoses. And that is it for cleaning. Now we get to go on to designing, but we've got to get our vase filled with Oasis first. So go ahead and bring out your vase and your Oasis center stage. And so you've got a block of Oasis that is not a true square. It's a little bit more rectangle in shape. So we want it the flat way, not tall. We want it flat and fat. And what we're going to do, because this way it will fit in our arrangement. This way it will be poking up and you'll have too much room on the sides. So go ahead and place them on top of your vase. It doesn't really matter how, but you're just going to lightly press so that you get an indentation of your vase so you can cut it. All right. So take your scissors or your knife and cut just inside your little mold impression. And you don't have to cut all the way through because it can peel off. It's always better to cut a little bit bigger if you're unsure, because you can always go smaller. Same thing when we get to start cutting our stems. It's always better, when in doubt, to cut a little bit longer because you can cut it shorter later. So now it should just fit right inside our vase. If it's not, take it out and shave it off a little bit more, but then it fits in our vase nice and snug. It's okay if it's moving around just a little bit. Overall, it's nice and tight in there. All right. So this vase in particular, we're going to keep straight for us. If you want to be a little bit more funky, you can turn it sideways. If you want like a little extra texture to it, but I'm going to design it straight because there'll be plenty of texture. So we are going to start with our Makara orchids. So the way we think about how we're going to place them is you want to be proportional to the size of your vase. You don't want something in a smaller vase sticking up all the way like this. And then you also don't want it teeny tiny right like that. So we want to be at least the same height as our vase, if not just a hair more. Okay, so honestly, I've got too long of blooms here. I only want, your vase is 4 inches tall, so I want about maybe 5 inches of blooms. So the blooms from the bottom are what blooms first, so they're going to go bad faster. So I'm going to peel those off anyway. Now you can use these actually, if you want to put a little something in your hair, or if you want to, when you're, actually, if you have a bud vase, you can put them in a little bit of water, or you can decorate the front of your vase, take pictures with it, and show everybody how amazing you are. So we're going to cut now about 2 to 3 inches below our last bloom connection. And we're going to cut at a really sharp angle, a good 45-degree angle. That way, when we're inserting it into the Oasis, it's like inserting a knife versus a blunt end and kind of crushing our way down. Actually, you know what? We are going to do this sideways because we got a lot of flowers to put in here, and this will allow us to put it in more. So right near our, you're designing it left hand. So near our, I'm sorry, it honestly doesn't matter. Thinking backwards, which way you guys are viewing it. But in your left-hand corner, you're going to go ahead and insert it at a good steep 45-degree angle or a little bit more right there in the corner. And you want to go so far down that your first bloom is right at the base of the vase. So right like that. Okay. Our next one will go a little bit more up and down to kind of fill it in like this. So you measure about 5 inches down and then a good 3 inches past that. And we're going to place this one right behind where we did our first one. So right over here, and go a little bit more straight up and down with a little slight angle. So there you go, right like that. I'm going to snip this guy off down here at the bottom because he's going to end up getting in the way when we insert other blooms. All right. Next, we're going to, because these are going to have varying colors, we're going to, actually we're going to go to our stock because we're going to go to the other side because we're going at such steep angles with these. We want to make sure to get these guys in first so that we're not trying to weasel in things when other stems are there. So some of your stock might have a slight bend to it, like this one does. So we're going to use that to our advantage, and we're going to put them like this in our arrangement. So again, you want a good 4 to 5 inches of blooms, and then a couple of inches below that at a steep angle. And this one we're going to put at a really sharp angle. Okay. So right in there like that. And then this next one, we're going to put at a slightly less of an angle, same length, a little bit more straight, but not too straight. And then the one, and we did that one in front of your first one. Then your next one, you're going to do on the opposite side of your first one. And that one is going to be a little bit more straight up and down. So you've got this nice, beautiful cluster right there. Good deal. Now we're going to go and work on the purples on this side. And what we're going to do first is with our purple spray roses. Now you can have some clusters that look a little different. So like that guy has really long individual blooms, and then this one has more clustered blooms. So you can choose to use them individually or keep as many clusters as you can, depending on your spray rose. So if you have the long stems, we're going to cut them into individuals like this, as long as a stem as you can. And then like this guy, I'm going to cut him down here just in case I need him longer. You can always make him shorter later, remember. All right. So go ahead and cut your stems into little clusters. So if you have a cluster like these up here, oops, I cannot keep them in my hands today. These three are all nice and kind of tight together, meaning that they're all around the same height and they're all connected by one individual stem that I can use together. So I'm going to go down to where just before this guy branches out and cut him that way. And so now I'll use this cluster by itself and then these by themselves. So same thing with these. They're about the same height, so I could probably use them together. I'm going to cut them together. Every flower to its own ability, right? Okay. So because this is going to be a front-facing arrangement, we're going to be focusing from this middle section forward, and we're not going to matter so much on the back side, the side that you can't see at the moment. So you should be designing this like facing you, but I'm going to design it the way you should be seeing it yourself. So we're going to work from this middle section. We're going to kind of split this blank space in half, and this section will be our new pink, purples, and then this section will be our new yellows. And then we're going to work from the bottom to the top. Okay, so you want shorter pieces at the bottom, so a good 3 inches, and we're going to insert that at a pretty nice steep angle and push with the stem, not the bloom, if you can, and get him in nice and tight right above. You want your bloom right above your vase. And we're going to start with a cluster of 3. And you want to make sure you fill in all the way to your orchid. Nice and thread in there. The reason we design in 3s or typically odd numbers is because that's more pleasing to the eye. It's just a little design secret. So now when we're filling in the rest of these, it's okay to have little holes or a little bit more open areas because we're gonna put in our regular roses in those little areas. So if you want to, you can take one of your taller pieces and make that as your top piece. So you know where you're connecting to. So that's not quite tall enough. There's a nice tall one. So he's gonna be my tallest piece right up here. And I'm not going any farther on the back side than the halfway point. And then fill in between, still staying within your half here. And if you don't use all of them, that's okay. You can always come back and either add more or use them for a little side arrangement. Perfect. Next, we're going to add our regular roses. And we're going to start with the top one. He's going to be a hair taller than our first one, a little bit more in line with our orchids. So right in there like that. And he's definitely pointing straight up. Normally I like our flowers to kind of face us a little bit more, but he's a finishing touch up at the top, so he can go straight up. Our next one is going to be slightly shorter, a good 5 inches. And you're going to go just off of that guy. So it's just slightly, not directly below, but a little bit to the right or left. And he's gonna be lower. Then our last one is gonna be even lower than that. And on the opposite side of where you just put that one. So if you went right with the first one, go left with the second. And they should be all nestled in there together. Your roses shouldn't be like super sticking out against your spray roses. You can see they're all nestled right in there together. All right. Now we're gonna add just a touch of our carnations, just to kind of finish off this little block. So I'm gonna nestle one right in here, just for a little varying color. And if you don't want to use your carnations, you certainly don't have to. I'm going to put one right there. If you're having trouble because you're hitting other stems, that's okay. Just pull it out and make a new insertion point. Perfect. Next, we're going to go to our yellow block right in here. So your first alstroemeria, we're going to cut about 1 inch or 2 below the connection point to start off. And he's going to go about just in front of the midway point because he kind of fans out. So your stem, even though we're going just inside the halfway point, he's going to fill in all the way to the halfway point. When you're inserting these like this, be careful because these guys like to break really easily. If you do break them, that's okay. Cut above the break point and you can use them in a lower piece, but just be careful when you're pushing these in, okay? So nice and weasel in there. If he ends up being too long, take him out, give him a little snip, and he'll be just fine for reinsertion. Look at that, already looking beautiful. Then your last one, we want to be shorter than what these branches are allowing us to be. So we're going to use them individually. So below the bloom, we're going to cut about 3 inches. And we're doing these before we do our spray roses. Again, because these have such delicate stems, they don't take a lot of force very well. And we're doing it now where we have more room to really get our fingers right in there, right to the oasis. Whereas the spray roses are stronger. They can go straight in. Go ahead and come on in. They can help you over there. All right, so this last little section in between our pinks, we're going to go ahead and just thread right in. And you're gonna wanna get them pretty nice and low. If you're having trouble, like that guy, he went too low, but I can't really push him in anymore. So I'm gonna take him out. And I'm gonna give him a new cut shorter and a new insertion point. Remember from our previous workshops that you can't just pull them out if you've gotten them too deep, because now they won't have a connection to the water source. You don't have to use all of them that came in that little stem either. If you feel like you've covered that area well enough, you can use them for your little side project. Do one more, right there. Sometimes you can't do it backwards. Okay, yay. Now again, it's okay if you have some holes in here because we're going to fill in with our yellow spray roses. Bye, thank you. So the same way we did with our purples, if you've got little clusters that will work, go ahead and snip them off. And then the longer ones we can use individually. I've gotten my space really messy. Okay, so go ahead and cut all of your spray roses that way. Clusters, and then if you have any individuals. Perfect. Okay, so let's start with our tallest one first. You can choose to go on the back side of your alstroemeria, depending on how much room you have. And like, see that guy, normally I would have used them individually, but I wouldn't have a long enough stem for him. And he ended up looking really good, right like that, and filling in that little hole there. So I'm gonna put one on my back side. And now I'm going to put an even mixture of them within my yellow alstroemeria. And then your ones down here, again, are going to be your shortest ones. Just find a little weasel space. Perfect, I like that. And again, you don't want them super sticking out of your arrangement. Everything is nice and tight and compact. And the alstroemeria is more of a filler flower. He's gonna like fill in the yellow behind our spray roses. The spray roses should be the more focal point of that. That way we don't have to have, and it also offers a really good texture. So you don't have just spray roses. Right like that. Fantastic. Alrighty. Now for our palm leaf. So we're going to make him directional. And so it's up to you how deep you cut. I would suggest leaving at least 5 inches on your stem. And again, a nice sharp angle. This guy will dry just like this. Also a little point, you can spray paint these. We'll be doing a dried flower workshop, and we'll be using these with colors. So we're gonna put this as a background here, and I'm gonna turn him around so you can kind of see what I'm doing here, because now you should have like this blank area. And as you know, we never leave something looking like this. We always want to finish it, because for event work that we do, you never know how it's going to be photographed. If a photographer is like standing here taking pictures this way and you have all that ugliness still available, no. Professional florists cover their work. So we're going to put this guy about right here and at a really good angle, okay? We want to be able to see him. There we go, right like that. Just kind of peeking up there. There we go. Now, to finish this backside, because you can still see in the magic, we're going to use our Israeli ruscus. And this guy, and you're like, what am I going to do with one stem? You've got actually like 6 pieces in here that are all usable. So what you do, a lot like our spray roses we were doing, you're going to come down several inches until you come to some natural break in here. So you can see where there's a little bit of some stem until the next group, and then some stem until the next group. And so you're going to cut each of those individually. Go right down to where the leaf connects. So that leaf right there, I'm going to cut right before him. Boop. And look, I've got this little piece to use now. So now I've got a natural break again right there. So I'm going to snip there. And a natural break there. If you have a natural break and there's only one leaf on there, that's still fine. He's still usable. You'd be surprised what a difference one cover leaf can make. So this guy, he's not going to have a long enough stem right there to really warrant those 3 guys to be working. So I'm going to go ahead and include that one and go all the way down to this next leaf. And then the same thing with this guy. I can choose to either keep him or let him go. I'm going to keep him. Again, that one leaf can make a world of difference. And then your last piece. So now look at all of these pieces that you have to use to cover the magic. And so we're going to start by just plopping them in. And you can go high or low. It doesn't matter as long as you're covering the stems, because you don't want to see all the stems and the oasis. And this is a much more refined, finished look. Perfect. I want you to stay right like that. There we go. So your back side is just as finished as the front side. And there's your arrangement. Remember to water them. It's easy to forget that when you can't see your water line, but make sure you water every day, just a little bit at least. Remember, if you're not using the flower food packet, that you need to be using water from your hose or bottled water. With all the soft water that's in our area, that's the easiest way to kill your flowers is with soft water. So water from your hose or use your water conditioning packet. And these will stay good so long. If you've been over to the Spotted Deer and saw our prototype, I made that on Tuesday and it's still absolutely gorgeous. And that one does not get watered every day. But be sure to go over there and see prototypes of all of our workshops and enjoy their coffee. And then be sure to also post your pictures with your smiling faces. I want to see you, because this is what this is all about. It's sending joy and spreading smiles, because I want to see your big, beautiful faces with these now. And now that things are opening back up and we're not like super quarantined, I want to see your big, beautiful faces with that. See, look at how beautiful that looks with this. When you're displaying these, take off that little bloom, that extra little stem. And just make a nice little pile right there. Eek! I can't wait to see all of your arrangements. Bloomhouse Fine Flowers on Instagram. Talk to you guys later.